A minor clerical error in the Parthen Bureau of Sentient Species Integration had just doomed a galaxy. In the glossy halls of the Galactic Empire's Ministry of Border Affairs, an ivory tower suspended above the smog seas of Nerix Prime, third sub-assistant diplomat Jorks of the Clocktheory sighed through his gill slits. The latest border sweep had yielded another handful of undocumented sentience from that unruly blue speck, Earth. Protocol was clear. Rehome. Rehabilitate. Re-educate. They had plucked the tiny human from a grassy clearing beside a cratered transport pod, wrapped him in a thermal bubble, and tagged him with a provisional identity band that read, Mammalian juvenile, age, 3 solar rotations. Species, Homo sapiens. Status, unclaimed. Jorks hadn't even looked twice. The boy Milo, now occupied holding Unit 7B, under the ever-watchful scan of drones. He was small. Hair like starlight. Eyes too big for his face and filled with questions. At first, he had been silent. Observing. Touching. Then he smiled. Now the facility's lights flickered every few minutes. Jorks found himself repairing interface panels with increasing frequency, only to discover the pieces had been rearranged into complex fractal patterns that defied logic. One technician swore Milo had made the cafeteria's beverage printer pour actual orange juice, a substance never loaded into the machine's database. Another claimed the boy had conversed fluently in Tharnic, a language with 12 tenses and no vowels. "We've acquired a prodigy," Jorks muttered into his log. No one paid attention to the child's origin. Earth was a minor, emotionally erratic Class 4 development planet. Their people had charm but little else. Their diplomacy was all handshakes, metaphors and strange idioms, barely comprehensible to a species that thought in scent. The Clocktheory Empire had once deemed humans peculiarly inoffensive. A sentiment they would soon deeply regret. On the edge of the solar system, just beyond Pluto's corpse and Neptune's sulk, a transmission flared to life aboard the ISS Requital. The message was short, in standard galactic binary. Subject retrieved. Located at Nerix Orbital Hub 7. No response required. General Ileana Cade read the message once, then again. Her fingers tightened ever so slightly around the edge of her steel clipboard. Behind her, 3 aides stiffened. "Permission to speak freely, General?" asked Captain Reese, voice barely above a whisper. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she set the clipboard down with surgical precision, walked to the reinforced viewport, and gazed into the star-strewn dark. Her reflection glowed faintly in the glass. Shoulder-length braid, regulation black synth armor, and the soft, unblinking eyes of someone who didn't just plan wars. She made them art. "You know," she said, voice calm, almost playful. "When my son was born, I asked myself how many worlds I'd burn if someone ever tried to take him from me." She turned. "Apparently, I'm about to find out." Reese swallowed. "We'll scramble the fleet, ma'am." "No," she said, and a flicker of confusion passed across the room. "No?" She smiled. "Not yet. We'll be polite first. Send a message to the Galactic Empire. Inform them they're currently harboring an abducted human minor. Kindly ask for his return. Be specific. Use my name." Lieutenant Sato tapped rapidly into his comms console. "Any particular tone, ma'am?" "Use formal language," she replied, adjusting her gloves. "But imply consequences so large they won't fit into a star chart." As the room sprang into silent action, Ileana Cade sat back down. "Calm. Efficient. Focused. I'll give them 3 hours," she murmured. In Orbit Hub 7, Jorks's console beeped in a way that no console ever should. "Incoming priority transmission. Tier Omega. Sender: General Ileana Cade, Earth Human Strategic Command. Subject: Request for return of Earth minor. Code designation, Milo." He blinked. The name was unfamiliar. The title was not. "General?" He croaked. Behind him, High Arbiter Narlik strolled in, chewing the last remnants of a genetically neutral nutrition pod. "What's the issue, Jorks?" "We appear to have apprehended the offspring of a human military leader," Jorks said. "She's asking for his return." Narlix scoffed. Humans always ask for things. Then they make emotional appeals. Threaten to unleash hell, or burn it all down. It's metaphorical nonsense. Jorks hesitated. This message contains neither idioms nor metaphors. Let me see it. Narlix read the short, brutal message 3 times. It contained only 3 sentences. It requested the return of Milocade. It cited international law, human rights statutes, and a specific clause of the Sentient Protection Accord that Narlix had only heard whispered about in the diplomacy forums. The final sentence simply read, "Return him immediately. No further warnings will be issued." Narlix chuckled. "We'll send a response. Politely, of course. Decline jurisdiction. Offer to enroll the child in our cultural adjustment program. Mention how he's thriving." "Sir," Jork said, "perhaps we should." "Bah. They won't risk a war over a single child." Back aboard the Requital, the message arrived on Ileana's command terminal with a melodic ping. She read it silently, then slid the tablet across the desk to Reese. "We believe your species would benefit from long-term interstellar integration, beginning with this child," Reese read aloud. Oh no." Ileana poured herself a cup of coffee. She stirred slowly. "It's always the condescending ones." Behind her, the holoscreen flared to life with rows of blinking red indicators. Sato looked up. 73 ships ready and cloaked in low orbit. "Good. Let them stay dark." "Ma'am," Reese said cautiously, "what if they respond with force?" She sipped. "They won't. They'll respond with curiosity. Then concern. Then panic. Then surrender." He opened his mouth, closed it again, and nodded. A few minutes later, a new message arrived from the Galactic Empire. It was cheerful, patronizing, entirely too calm. "We would be delighted to continue a peaceful discussion about the child's placement. Please note that any aggressive posturing will be taken as a violation of Galactic Harmony Accords." Ileana set her cup down with a faint clink. She activated the broadcast system. "Message to the fleet," she said. "All ships prepare silent maneuver. Reposition for strategic envelope. Do not fire. Not yet." Outside, stars twinkled like unknowing spectators. Back in orbit Hub 7, Milo was currently unscrewing a panel from the communications array. He hummed softly as sparks danced around him. A maintenance droid beeped a warning. He tapped it gently with a cookie. It rebooted, chirped something in binary, then floated away muttering, "Yes, Supreme Child Milo. As you command." Jorks was sweating. He watched the boy on the screen. "Sir, I think we need to escalate this." Narlix glanced at the screen. "He's eating glue and rewiring our scanners." "I'm aware. He just renamed our network to Milonet." "It's a phase." He sent a command packet to the Empire's central database that replaced the Emperor's portrait with a cartoon raccoon holding a flamethrower. "That's mildly concerning." Jorks wiped his forehead. "Should we return him?" "No," said Narlix. "We're not giving in to human theatrics." Then the lights went out. The entire station shuddered. Jorks screamed. From every speaker came a single, calm voice. "Hello, Orbit Hub 7. This is General Ileana Cade. You are currently in possession of a human asset. You have denied formal return. As such, I will be retrieving my son personally. Please remain still. Any resistance will be met with excessive politeness." The words echoed, too calm to be sane. In the main chamber, Milo raised his juice box in salute. Narlix sent out an emergency call. "Empire Command, this is Hub 7. We are under psychological assault." "Psychological?" The reply came back, staticky. "There's no weapons. No strikes. They've taken our lights. Our toilets flush backwards. All our coffee dispensers now serve nothing but hot ketchup." "Ketchup?" Jorks muttered. "She's not attacking us. She's mocking us." Narlix's fronds twitched. And across the stars on every border, human ships blinked silently into range, still hidden, their lights dim, their engines humming with quiet menace. At precisely hour 3, General Ileana Cade boarded a single vessel. Sleek. Silent. Not a warship, but a diplomatic shuttle. Her armor polished. Her braid tight. Her voice honeyed. She docked at Orbit Hub 7 alone. The airlock hissed open. Every clock theory on the station froze. She stepped forward with a small suitcase in one hand and a chocolate bar in the other. "I believe," she said pleasantly, "you have something that belongs to me." Milo squealed and ran toward her, giggling. She knelt, scooped him into her arms, kissed his forehead, then stood. The hallway was silent. "I appreciate your hospitality," she continued. "My son has thoroughly enjoyed your company. Unfortunately, he's developed a mild allergy to arrogance. Breaks out in acts of sabotage." Narlik stared, slack-jawed. You can't just walk in." "Oh, I can," she said sweetly. "And I have. But I recommend issuing a public apology and recalibrating your assumptions about humanity." Her smile was bright enough to start fires. She turned. "Let's go home, Milo." He waved goodbye to the terrified aliens. The door slid shut behind them. And from deep within Orbit Hub 7, every sensor activated simultaneously, detecting thousands of cloak signals now surrounding the system. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. Because sometimes, the most terrifying weapon is a mother with a mission. And a smile. And 37,000 ships behind her. The Empire had stolen the wrong child. And they were only just beginning to understand what that meant. Milo was now considered a Category 3 anomaly. The Galactic Empire's Department of Juvenile Containment, normally a half-empty floor used for babysitting rogue larval species and the occasional unsupervised fungal prince, had been completely reassigned to one subject, human miner Milo Cade. He'd been quiet for the past hour, which terrified everyone. Senior Analyst Vril of the Cortexian Cognate had watched the child stack nutrient blocks into a perfect model of the Orion spiral arm, disassemble and reprogram 2 maintenance drones, and teach a sanitation droid to play peekaboo. Now he sat, humming to himself, looking serene. Too serene. Why hasn't he moved? Vril asked, not taking his compound eyes off the screen. Technician Grex answered. He said he's charging. We don't know what that means. Vril turned slowly. Do humans charge? No. But he's sitting near an outlet. And smiling. Oh stars. The tension on the station had escalated steadily. After General Cade's visit, short, surgical and soul-rattling, Command had ordered all operations paused for evaluation. The Empire had not declared war. But neither had the humans. And that ambiguity was far more disturbing than an outright siege. Most military species, like the clock theory, saw aggression coming. Ships lined up. Threats shouted. Battle commenced. But Earth? Earth had sent a mother with a friendly voice, a flawless braid, and a child who had corrupted 3 AIs in under 72 hours. Vril reviewed the security logs again. In the last 6 hours, the station's oxygen regulators had been reprogrammed to emit faint lavender perfume. All surveillance footage now featured musical accompaniment, mostly flute solos. The command override codes had been changed to, I less than 3 mom. Worst of all, the Empire's central database had gone down for 30 minutes. The cause? A 3-letter virus uploaded from Orbit Hub 7. The virus name? MOM. Across the stars, the Galactic Senate convened an emergency session. Species of every type, scales, fur, exoskeletons, gas clouds, converged on the crystal amphitheater of Eltheria Prime. Their topic? Earth. Or more specifically, what in all molten moons is wrong with humans? Ambassador Tharnix of the Zenthari stood with a flourish of tentacles. We believe them harmless, he boomed. They offered tea when insulted, apologized when bumped into, and smiled when threatened. These are not normal behaviors. From the Arcanium cluster, a shimmering being added. They make jokes during violence. One of them threw a cupcake at our scout ship and called it diplomatic frosting. It exploded. An uneasy silence followed. Finally, A weathered voice rose from the corner, slow and weary. It was Arch-Curator Levesque of the ancient Drunathi. He rarely spoke, mostly because his kind communicated in vibrational thought songs that took days to complete. But this time he used words. "You have all misread the humans," he said. "They are not weak. They are patient. They do not conquer through domination. They invite, learn, smile. Then, when the moment is right, they dismantle everything you are with precision and warmth." A heavy pause settled over the room. The Altrian diplomat clicked nervously. "They only sent one woman." "She was enough," said Levesque. "And the child?" "He's not a child. He's bait." Gasps. One delegate fainted. On Earth, General Ileana Cade observed the chaos from the requital's command chair. She held a tablet in one hand, a stylus in the other, and was reviewing a drawing Milo had made. It was crude, mostly crayon swirls, but the schematic accuracy of the Empire's orbital relay grid was startling. "He's mapping their infrastructure," she murmured. Captain Reese approached. "We just received a communiqué from the Vorok Alliance. They're offering to stay out of the humans' way in future border negotiations." "Smart," she said without looking up. "Ma'am, is it true what they're saying? That we use the kidnapping as a test?" Ileana tapped her stylus. "Partially." Reese waited. "We didn't orchestrate the abduction," she continued. "But once it happened, we recognized the opportunity. There's no better way to assess an empire's threat level than to see how they treat a lost child." "And?" "They failed," she said simply. A pause. "They could have returned him immediately. Apologized. Built goodwill. Instead, they justified their actions, belittled Earth, and tried to fold my son into their system like an orphan pet. So now, we show them what that costs." Reese shifted uncomfortably. "We're still not attacking?" "Not yet. Let them stew. Let them panic. Let them draft policies and build fleets and lose sleep. Then, we negotiate. With weapons." She smiled. "With options." Meanwhile, in Orbit Hub 7, Milo discovered the joy of sarcasm. He was teaching a clock theory junior officer named Hexil how to properly roll their eyes when displeased. "No," Milo said, arms crossed. "Like this. You look up, but with disappointment." Hexil tried. "Better," Milo said, nodding approvingly. "Now say, 'Oh, how original.' That's a classic." "I do not understand why this is powerful," Hexil admitted. "It's how humans deflect pain," Milo explained sagely. "And confuse enemies. Sarcasm is like armor made of jokes." Hexil pondered this. "You are very small to be so dangerous." "I eat spaghetti," Milo said seriously. "And I've seen things." A nearby droid giggled. The absurdity spread like a virus. Officers began quoting Milo. Droids developed personalities. Even the station's AI adopted a new voice. Soothing, maternal, unmistakably human. "We're losing containment," Vril whispered to Narlix, now back on site. "We lost at the moment the child called our lead tactician, Captain Fartface, in a diplomatic briefing." "I thought that was his name," Vril said miserably. "No," Narlix muttered. "But it is now." The tipping point came 2 days later. In a last-ditch effort to regain control, the Empire authorized the Praetorian Maneuver, a show of force via orbital blockade. Hundreds of ships arrived at Earth's outer rim. Not to fire, merely to observe. Ileana allowed it. She didn't activate weapons. She didn't issue warnings. She invited them to dinner. Over open channels. The message was simple. "We're roasting vegetables tonight. Vegan-friendly. Bring your own drink." It was either madness or masterclass strategy. The alien commanders didn't respond. But they stayed. Watching. Waiting. And then, their scanners began failing. Just flickers. Interference. Inconvenient, but recoverable. Except Earth had done nothing. It was the blockade ships failing. Why? Because Milo had reprogrammed the station's relays to ping every Imperial ship with an ancient Earth signal. A a recursive loop of cat videos encoded in old MPEG-4. Their internal systems tried to decode them. Every single one. Processing cycles maxed out. Cooling systems fried. Half the fleet's AIs developed personalities, and 2 ships attempted to join Earth's citizenship process because they liked the music. That's when the Galactic Emperor finally took action. The Emperor of the Clock Theory, Supreme Radiant Uldros 9, was not a patient being. He had ruled unopposed for centuries. Civilizations bowed to him. Planets moved to his timetable. His name was whispered across 10 galaxies. And now, a woman named Ileana was making him a joke. He summoned a direct line. The humans answered. The Emperor sat, resplendent in silken biorobes that shimmered with neural dyes, and offered his most intimidating expression. "You will stand down, human," he declared. Ileana appeared on screen. She was feeding Milo a spoonful of mashed peas. She didn't flinch. "I am standing. Just not down. You are in violation of galactic concords." "I'm in violation of a good night's sleep," she replied. "It's been exhausting, Uldros. All this dancing. Just hand over your apologies and we can move on." "You are arrogant beyond belief." "I am efficient," she corrected. "You kidnapped my child. Then you refused to admit fault. Then you invited war. And we still haven't raised our voice. That's restraint, Emperor. We're not the apex because we scream. We're the apex because we wait." He narrowed his eyes. "If you are so strong, why haven't you struck?" "Because you're still useful," she said, and her smile was the kind that legends are built on. "You're going to help us rewrite the balance of power in this galaxy. You just haven't realized it yet." The feed cut. Uldros 9, Emperor of the Clock Theory, felt something he hadn't in centuries. He felt hunted. Reese approached Ileana later, hesitant. "Ma'am, are we actually planning to overthrow the Galactic Empire?" "No," she said. "They're going to do that themselves. We're just giving them a nudge." He nodded slowly. "And Milo?" She smiled. "He's our ambassador." "To what?" "Chaos." That night, Milo drew a new picture. This one showed planets with smiley faces, hand in hand. At the bottom, a note in his blocky handwriting read, "Everyone gets along or comes back." Ileana taped it to her console. The Empire would understand soon enough. Earth wasn't dangerous because of its weapons, or its numbers, or its technology. It was dangerous because it had learned to weaponize kindness, curiosity, and just the right amount of petty vengeance. And the galaxy was only beginning to feel the ripple. As Milo yawned and curled into her lap, Ileana looked out the viewport and whispered, "Phase 2 begins tomorrow." And all across the stars, sensors quietly began to fail. Protocols rewrote themselves. Empires shivered. Because Earth wasn't knocking. It had already let itself in. General Ileana Cade stood at the edge of the command deck, arms folded, watching as star charts shifted like living puzzle pieces across the digital wall. Every dot, every line, every fleet placement was calculated. Behind her, Milo sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by snack wrappers and schematics. He had added rocket boosters to a toy giraffe, and was now attempting to explain aerodynamics to a potted plant. "Why does the plant need to understand lift?" Reese asked, cautiously stepping around a puddle of what might have once been juice. Milo shrugged without looking up. "Everything should be prepared." Ileana smiled faintly but said nothing. Her mind wasn't on the plant, or the toy, or even the slowly assembling empire-wide diplomatic incident. Her attention was focused on the cracks forming in the Galactic Empire's polished exterior. They were splintering. Not from violence. From confusion. That was always how it began. "Report," she said. Reese pulled up his holopad, fingers flicking through streams of intercepted communications. 3 more systems have entered what they're calling preemptive neutrality. No official break from the Empire, but they've blocked military orders from Central Command. Diplomats from the Tarzan League are now referring to you as the Smiling Knife. "That's new," she said. "There's more," he added. Station AI from Clock Theory Core Relay B-17 spontaneously gained emotional sentience. It now refuses to obey commands unless they're phrased politely and include compliments. What triggered it? Reese cleared his throat. It claims Milo told it a bedtime story. Across the room, Milo looked up. It was the one with the space walrus and the ungrateful asteroid. Of course it was. The Clock Theory were spiraling. Their bureaucracy was a delicately balanced tower of protocol, efficiency, and controlled arrogance. It had no defenses against ridicule, disobedience, or whimsy. And Milo, like his mother, wielded those tools with the precision of a scalpel. What about the Emperor? Ileana asked, stepping toward the central console. He's retreated from public broadcasts, Reese said. His last appearance was 4 hours ago. His final statement was, "We are not afraid of Earth. We are simply reconsidering the efficiency of centralized galactic oversight." Ileana snorted. That's panic, dressed up as philosophy. She tapped into the secure EarthNet channel, watched as encrypted feeds danced across the screen. Dozens of human operatives were already embedded across Clock Theory space. Engineers posing as janitors. Diplomats with secret dossiers. Children enrolled in alien academies, spreading slang, memes, and doubt. None of this was an accident. Humanity didn't win wars by shooting first. It won by smiling, shaking hands, and making you doubt your own operating system. Ileana turned to Milo. Ready to go visit your friend? Milo nodded enthusiastically, already stuffing 2 cookies into his pocket and slipping the toy giraffe under his arm. Captain Fartface is expecting me. Reese raised an eyebrow. Sir, Captain Fartface is a senior Clock Theory communications director, Ileana said, completely straight-faced. And currently Milo's pen pal. Of course he is. Orbit Hub 9 was quieter than most. Its staff had learned caution from their sibling station's recent incident. When Milo arrived, escorted by a single shuttle, unarmed, unscheduled, and extremely polite, the docking bay officers tried to maintain composure. It didn't last. The first sign of trouble came when Milo offered a paper drawing to the security chief. It depicted the officer in a sparkly crown holding hands with a smiling snail. She burst into tears and resigned on the spot, declaring, I need to rethink my life. By the time Ileana exited the shuttle, 3 guards had joined a meditation circle around Milo, who was explaining why clouds didn't need to make sense. Ma'am, said a wide-eyed lieutenant, he's, very persuasive. He's 3, Ileana said mildly. You should meet his grandfather. She moved through the corridors like a storm dressed in calm. Every Clock Theory she passed stiffened, saluted, or immediately looked away. Her reputation preceded her now, carried not by violence, but by legend. She found Captain Fartface, formally, Director Kelrix Vun, waiting in the diplomacy chamber, surrounded by files, data pads, and a translator droid that looked like it desperately wanted to self-destruct. General Cade, Vun greeted, rising stiffly. We did not authorize. I'm not here for authorization, she said, sitting gracefully across from him. I'm here for information. And perhaps tea. He hesitated. You wish to speak? I always prefer speaking first, she said. Saves energy. Less mess. He cleared his throat, flicking his frilled sensory antenna nervously. You've destabilized half our command structure. We offered you friendship. You returned it with abduction and condescension, she said, sipping a cup of something that vaguely resembled coffee. Now we're adjusting expectations. I see. Do you? She leaned in, her voice soft. You're not losing to military might. You're losing to empathy. To charm. To jokes. You're being outmaneuvered by bedtime stories and sincerity. That's not a threat. That's a mercy. Vun hesitated. What do you want? She glanced toward Milo, who was now giving orders to 3 maintenance bots in a mock military parade. I want the Empire to stop pretending it understands humanity, she said. And I want you to understand what we actually are. And what is that? Not what you think. She stood. The room dimmed. Not from lights, but from presence. "We don't conquer," she said. "We don't colonize. We integrate. We absorb. You'll never see the moment it happens. But one day, your empire will be humming human lullabies, and wondering why no one fears your flag anymore." She smiled again. "And this time it was almost sad. Unless, of course, you force our hand." Back aboard the Requital, news of the conversation spread fast. It wasn't just that Ileana had spoken with a Clocktheory director. It was that she hadn't made a single threat. And yet, within hours, 2 more Clocktheory territories announced spontaneous sovereignty, distancing themselves from central rule. Earth didn't have to fire a shot. The Empire was cannibalizing itself. But not everyone was pleased. A group of imperial purists, militant, proud, and extremely bad at adapting, launched a retaliatory strike. A fleet of 20 high-grade cruisers made their way to the edge of Earth's border, announcing that they would make an example of human posturing. The Earth Council let Ileana decide the response. She sent a single drone. It carried a gift. 1 bar of handcrafted Earth chocolate. And a note that read, "Please enjoy this preemptive act of sweetness. It will be the last thing that melts in your mouth before everything else melts." The fleet turned around halfway through. Word spread. Later that evening, Ileana found Milo asleep in the communications nest, curled against a pillow made of rerouted cabling. The AI softly whispered lullabies in 3 languages. Her son stirred as she knelt beside him. "Did I do good?" he asked sleepily. "You did more than good," she whispered. "You reminded the galaxy what we're capable of." "I just played," he mumbled. "Exactly," she said. She carried him back to quarters, past officers still stunned by the pace of change. Behind closed doors, her mask slipped. The general became a mother. But only for a moment. Because messages were piling up, and the final piece of her plan was falling into place. A neutral species, the Oritan, had called for a summit. A peace meeting. Mediated by a race who valued balance, quiet, and nonviolence. It would take place on their moon, under truce banners, with no weapons allowed. The Empire had agreed. So had Earth. They thought it would be a negotiation. Ileana knew better. This was the reveal. The Oritan moon was pale and peaceful, its sky always locked in gentle twilight. Representatives from 100 systems gathered under the dome of the convocation hall. Curved marble seats, fragrant air, and rings of protection technology pulsed subtly beneath the floor. The Empire arrived in grand fashion, regal robes, guarded expressions, and too many medals. Ileana arrived last. Alone. Unarmed. Except she wasn't. Because in the crowd, unnoticed, sat 3 of her embedded agents. Silent. Ordinary. Teachers, mechanics, a translator. And Milo, held gently by a diplomatic aide, swinging his legs. The Empire's speaker stepped forward first. He opened with flattery, appeals to tradition, and layered apologies crafted by a team of linguistic strategists. Ileana stepped up when he was done. Her words were not grand. "My son was taken." She let the silence stretch. "And you lied." More silence. "You lied to yourselves. About us. About what we are. You assumed that humanity was a blip. That our kindness made us weak. That our chaos made us simple. But it doesn't. It makes us unpredictable. It makes us dangerous. And worst of all, it makes us patient." She turned, meeting every eye in the room. "We won't attack you. We don't need to. You've already lost the one thing that held your empire together: belief. You thought your power made you untouchable. But now, your own systems doubt you. Your officers joke about bedtime stories. Your AI sings lullabies. Your people are learning sarcasm." She smiled. Soft. Deadly. "We're not here to take over. We're here to remind you, we could." No one clapped. No one spoke. But across the galaxy, subtle lights flicked on. Ships switched allegiance. Flags fell. And the stars tilted, ever so slightly, toward Earth. When Ileana stepped off the podium, she didn't walk like a victor. She walked like a mother. Milo ran up to her, holding a flower made from crystal polymers. "I made you something," he said. She knelt, took it carefully and nodded. "It's perfect." "What now?" he asked. She looked toward the stars, where empires shifted and futures rewrote themselves in silence. "Now," she said, "we give them time to think. And then?" She looked down at him. "And then we smile again." The empire wasn't falling. It was already on the ground. They just hadn't realized who pushed them yet. The palace of the Galactic Emperor was quiet. Too quiet. Not the reverent hush of tradition or the soft murmur of order, but the eerie silence of something ancient realizing it had grown brittle. Emperor Uldros IX stood alone in the heart of his crystalline throne chamber, fingers pressed against the cool edge of the Imperial command disk. It pulsed under his palm, awaiting orders he didn't know how to give. There were no incoming threats. No armies at his gates. No formal declarations of war. And yet, everything was falling. He could feel it, like pressure against the lungs. The sensation of being surrounded by something invisible, yet relentless. Earth had not fired a weapon. Not in the traditional sense. But they had infiltrated his courts with laughter. His fleets with whispers. His people with stories and uncertainty. What disturbed him most wasn't what the humans had done. It was what they had not done. He had grown old thinking that war was blood and steel. But Earth had shown him something worse. War that made you laugh until you questioned your own voice. War that offered you cookies before rearranging your laws. War that wore bedtime as a weapon. A faint chime broke the stillness. A private communication, encrypted and marked with the insignia of the Oritan Convocation. "Open it," he said softly. The image that filled the chamber was not the Oritan envoy. It was Ileana Cade. She stood aboard the requital, not in uniform, but in a simple black jacket, her braid coiled over one shoulder. No weapons. No armor. Just calm. "Hello, Uldros," she said. He stared at her, searching for some chink in the wall, some trace of fear or fatigue. There was none. "I did not expect a personal message," he replied. "Good," she said. "Surprise keeps you sharp. You've taken much from us." "I've returned much to you," she countered. "Doubt. Question. Perspective. You built your empire on assumptions. We just erased a few." "You think this is victory?" "No," she said. "This is context." He felt his jaw tighten. "You're not the first to challenge our rule. But I'm the first to make you apologize in your own court." That stung. Because it was true. 3 days ago, an internal broadcast had leaked. The Emperor issuing a statement to the Clockthery Civil Council, acknowledging a regrettable oversight in our handling of foreign relations with Earth. It was a statement dressed in political language, but to the galaxy, it had sounded like surrender. "I want to meet," she said now. "In person. On your station." "You expect me to host you?" She shrugged. "Your choice. But you invited chaos the moment you took my son. This is me offering to package it up and walk away." "And if I refuse?" "Then I stay," she said, her voice suddenly steely. "And I start teaching." That hit harder than any fleet. She smiled gently. "Have tea ready." The feed cut. The Emperor stood still for a long time. Then he turned to his aides. "Prepare the throne room. And cancel the parades." He didn't want pomp. He wanted answers. The requital moved in close orbit to the Clockthery homeworld, escorted by exactly 0 human ships. Ileana had ordered the rest of Earth's armada to remain invisible, silent, watching. Power wasn't what you showed. Power was what you held back. She arrived at the palace alone, flanked only by Milo, who held a lollipop and wore a hoodie that said Intergalactic Security Threat in glitter paint. As they stepped into the throne chamber, dozens of Clockthery nobles gasped, not because of her presence, but because the boy beside her pointed at the Imperial banner and asked, "Is that the one with the birdie that pooped on itself?" Several scribes fainted. The Emperor rose slowly. "General Cade." "Emperor," she said, nodding with a formality that was somehow more offensive than casual insult. "Let's talk." Then let's begin, he said, gesturing toward the negotiation dais. They sat. The audience held their breath. I'll start, she said. You stole a child. His jaw flexed. We acted on incomplete information. Correct, she interrupted. You acted. You didn't inquire. You didn't observe. You assumed. You thought Earth was irrelevant. That humans were just quaint mammals. You've proven otherwise, he said bitterly. No, she said. You proved it to yourself. We just gave you a mirror. She leaned forward. We never intended to become your enemy. We tried peace. You mistook kindness for passivity. When we smiled, you saw weakness. When we waited, you called us lazy. You thought you could absorb us, domesticate us, file us under manageable. Her eyes were clear, cold, brilliant. But humans aren't manageable. We're adaptable. We're chaotic. We build empires in the dirt and joke about it while eating snacks. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small, sealed folder. This, she said, sliding it across the table, is our offer. The Emperor opened it. Inside were 3 pages. Each detailed a proposed restructuring of galactic governance, redistribution of trade routes, reduction of centralized authority, and a new shared council with Earth as a permanent voting member. It was revolutionary. It was a demand. And it was polite. You expect us to dismantle our sovereignty? He asked. No, she said. I expect you to evolve. He shook his head. And if we don't? She smiled faintly. Then you'll keep losing. Not through war. Through irrelevance. Through conversion. Through your own people choosing to speak our language, follow our customs, laugh at our jokes. We've already seeded 1,000 viral ideas into your networks. Your bureaucracy is infected with curiosity. Your schools are teaching Earth literature. Your AIs dream in our metaphors. Milo leaned forward. Also, I taught your fleet AI how to tell knock-knock jokes. The Emperor blinked. Knock-knock, Milo said, dead serious. Who's there? The Emperor asked, before realizing. Boom. Boom who? Boom, your firewall's gone. Half the room checked their comms in a panic. The Emperor's aides whispered urgently to one another. There was no explosion. But every digital terminal in the palace now displayed the same message. Install update. Humanity version 2.0 recommended. Ileana didn't laugh. She didn't gloat. She simply waited. And eventually, the Emperor lowered his head. What do you want from us? She stood. I want you to survive. That was the real threat. Not death. Not defeat. Extinction by irrelevance. Ileana turned and took her son's hand. You have until the next lunar cycle. Then Earth begins Phase 3. The Emperor stood, his voice thin. What is Phase 3? She paused in the archway. Milo looked up at her, and she gave a small, fond smile. She turned back just long enough to answer. Education. On the journey back to the requital, Milo asked, Did we win? No, she said. We made it clear we could. He considered that. Will they be nice now?